Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Shows to Astonish. I am your host, the Fat Mantis, and today I'm taking you into the world of Star Wars fan fiction. Now, I don't normally do fan fictions on my show. It's deeply rooted into the fan base of Star Wars, and when you are a fanatical fan, you tend to make up your own hodgepodges and alternate realities, and I want to explore one today. And today's is going to be, what if Rey fell to the dark side? A lot of people loved Dark Rey. They loved seeing what she is and they wanted more. As a matter of fact, when we saw her in the trailer, I think a lot of people thought that she was going to be a main fixture, but a lot of us, like me, was like, it's just going to be a vision. It's just going to be a vision. Sure enough, Star Wars did not disappointing us by having her in just a quick vision. I just can't believe that they didn't see this coming, but to be honest, this isn't the rise of Skywalker's fault at all. Actually, where her fall should have taken place is The Last Jedi. Now, before I get into that, first thing I want to explore is what is goodness and why is Rey good? Now, I want to look at Luke for instance. So he's a farm boy and he has Boy Scout mentality and morality, straight up. And he's a lot like Superman, and it makes sense why he has these things. He grew up on a farm with some simple people who are just God-fearing, doing the right thing, don't like rebellion or resistance or causing trouble, and they just play by the rules. And that's what they taught him to do, and it makes complete sense. That is the exact same thing that went on with Superman. Simple, nice Kansas farmers who are Methodists, go to church every Sunday, they pay their taxes, they're good people, they raised him, and that's why he is the way that he is. I want to ask is, why is Rey good? And this is something that never made any sense to me in the sequel trilogy. She is very virtuous in the first one, but I think that she's just playing a role. When it comes down to it, why is she good? She was abandoned when she was like 8 or 9 years old on Jakku. When she is on Jakku, she is treated like a slave, if not is a slave, an Unkar Plunk, who's clearly a let's face it, he ain't being a nice guy. He ain't playing toys with that little girl. He didn't get her a doll when she was a kid. You know what I'm saying? She scrounged for everything, and she has this brutal, harsh life. Where did she get this morality from? Now, what I think is more likely is that she believes she wanted to be a good person, like everyone believes. Trust me, when it comes down to it, in everyone's own story, they're a good guy. Every single person. However, she, in The Last Jedi, had every reason to fall to the dark side, and this is my argument. And it starts with this. The assassination of Snoke, which I think is arguably one of the most redeemable scenes in all of The Last Jedi, even though so much of it was a questionable film. Now, in it, we have Rey being brought before him in his palace on his super Star Destroyer, in that giant red room with the Praetorian Guard in it. He begins to tempt her with the dark side, and when it's clear she's not going to break, he decides to just torture her and just be an animal. And what does Loverboy, Kylo Ren, who had been flirting with her, do? He assassinates his master in the name of a woman. I would have done it, yeah. Yeah. You know, Kylo Ren's a lot like me. He's a guy who wants what he wants, and he's going to make sure he gets it. So then ensues is one of the greatest Star Wars lightsaber to fight with these guys, and it's nicely done. And I gotta say that I've watched that scene a billion times, and I've watched The Last Jedi like 10. So I gotta say, sometimes I just skip straight to it and I turn it right off. I don't need to see any of that other stuff. At the very end of it, Kylo, with his pretty boy, grimacing face, looks at her, and he's like, we can do this together. And she's like, we need to save the rebellion. And he puts his hands out and he offers to her what I interpret to be is a space wedding proposal. He wants to marry her. He doesn't say those words, but he says, take my hand, and together we will rule the galaxy together. What do you think that's going to happen? You think they're not going to be hooking up when they're on that throne? I'm saying it's implying a marriage is going to happen. That's absolutely what's happening. And she's like, you're breaking my heart. And she starts to cry. Daisy Ridley is very good at crying. Now, in it, they have her fight back, and it continues the story. And what my take, where our fan fiction today is going to begin, is Daisy Ridley, or should I say Rey, from nowhere, would say yes. At first she would object, of course, because of the rebellion and her friends. But finally, I believe Kylo should walk to her and kiss her. And right after her, she says, yes, I will join you. Then she would burst out crying. She said, the rebellion, Finn. He would then say to her, wait here, I will take care of it. Now the rest of the movie would play out primarily as it normally had. They would face the rebels down inside that base, and they would try to bring in a sonic cannon. They would take on their AT-ATs, and there would be a duel between Kylo Ren and illusionary Luke Skywalker. And here's where it would change. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the Crystal Foxes. Crystal Foxes are really cute, but they ain't saving no rebellion in my universe. What would happen is Finn would suddenly get a telepathic call from Rey. She would say to him, I can't return to you. I'm sorry. I belong here, but I can still save you. Follow my directions. Precisely. And she would psychically lead him along the ways. And instead of following these foxes, the rebellion would be able to go through the passageways. And finally, they would get to our fallen boulder area. Now, in this case, this is where Princess Leia comes in. Princess Leia is one of the strongest Force users in the group. I don't know why Rey ended up doing it in the original film. However, Princess Leia would put her hand out and she would start moving the boulders, but still from her injuries be weakened. However, she would look at Finn and she said, give him a quick lesson on telekinesis. And basically tell him to reach out, feel things, and assist her, and he would. And the boulders would move out of the way, allowing the resistance to move out of the tunnels where they would be greeted by Chewbacca and the Millennium Falcon there to save them. They would get into their craft and they would escape. Once again, it would play out completely normally. However, in those final scenes with the resistance on their ship while they're licking their wounds, Finn would sit next to Princess Leia and tell her, General, Rey has left us. She was the only Jedi. She was our last hope. And then uttering the beautiful words of Yoda, General Leia would look at him and say, no, there is another. It would then we'd cut to Broom Boy and it would come to an end. End of The Last Jedi. Now, we are moving into Rise of Skywalker territory. Now, it would open, once again, similar, on Mustafar. Opening there, we would have the Knights of Ren, led by their commander, Kylo Ren, slaughtering the fanatics on Mustafar in front of Castle Vader. However, who would be assisting him would be Dark Rey with her double-bladed red lightsabers. They would together work as a duo, a disgusting, evil couple that comes from the straight bowels of hell. They would be gross and into each other, but also enjoying slaughtering these fools. Then they would move into the swamplands, where they would be encountered by the Eye of Webbish Bog. Now, the Eye of Webbish Bog was cut from the original one, but I still believe he has value in this series. They would see him, and he would talk to them, and he says, you know, because you are Darksiders and you are the heirs to Vader, I will give you the Wayfinder. And that's where they would reveal the Wayfinder. Next, it would cut to a scene where Kylo would tell Dark Rey, I have to explore this on my own. I'm going to go there. You lead the fleet. Which she's totally fine with. He would get into his TIE Whisperer and he would fly off, navigating the crazy nebula that surrounds Exegol. Once he gets there, he would confront the hidden Emperor. That's right, Palpatine still being alive. And of course, at the end of that whole conversation, Palpatine would say, the girl is not who you think she is. Now, instead of ordering Kylo to kill her, since she's already on the dark side, he would say this, utter and horrible warning. Rey is not fully on the dark side. Just as you before, she has not completely committed herself. I can only give you my fleet if you are both on board. Essentially ordering him to turn her completely to the dark side. True devotion to the ways of evil. Now, we would then cut over to our heroes. The vital mission at Cinta Glacier Colony out in space. The vital mission where Poe Dameron piloting the Millennium Falcon. These scenes would also run very similarly as they did in the original film. However, there would be one subtraction. No Finn in this scene, and actually it would be Rose Tika who's hanging out as the wingman of Poe Dameron. And when it came down to both banter and using the cannons on the TIE fighters, it would be Rose Tika there. Now, I know she's a controversial figure. I didn't really enjoy her in The Last Jedi anyway. However, I think she's salvageable as a character. And honestly, they made her look much better in The Rise of Skywalker. If they had given her lines and actually cool things to do, I think the audience would have forgiven her for her performance. It's not her performance, her portrayal in the last one, which we all know the writer-director is at fault, whoever that was. However, so she would be a totally redeemable good character, and they would go on their mission and discover through Bulio that the Emperor is back, and they know that there's a spy within the Order. They would do their light speed skipping and get away. Then we would cut to Ajon Klaus, sitting there cross-legged. Would not be who you think it is, or who you remember it to be, but instead it would be Finn. In his normal outfit costume, however, he is levitating using his telekinesis, with rocks floating around him. He's trying to commune with the Jedis of old, however that is a failure. After that, he would begin his training montage. When he does his training course, he would activate a lightsaber that was a green lightsaber of his own construction. Now, one of the mistakes of Rise of Skywalker is they make it 8 months after The Last Jedi, which I think was just a tactical error on their part. This is an epic, it's supposed to take over time, so I would jump another 2 or 3 years in the timeline, probably like 3 years. Jump into that. So he has actually had time to actually train and actually have significance. He would engage in his Jedi training, and he would stop and have some beautiful words with Leia. Then the Millennium Falcon would come in, where he would greet them and Rose. They'd argue about light speed skipping and all sorts of shenanigans, and as you know, the roles have now been reversed, where Finn is playing the part of Rey and Rose is playing the part of Finn. They unfortunately tell the Resistance about the fact that the Emperor has returned. Then Finn would leave the meeting, going immediately to old Jedi books, that he would say in a line that he recovered from Luke's hovel on Ahch-To. He said he would understand what a Wayfinder is, and that Luke had actually done a mission to try to search for it before. He believes it was last seen on Pisana, and he believes that it is time they can hunt it down. On their way out, he has a few more words with Leia, where he promises Leia that he is going to bring both Kylo and Rey back. Leia would say something similar to, don't get your hopes up, or, do what you can. And they set sail for Pisana. Meanwhile, back at the First Order fleet, they would have their meeting, both Kylo and Dark Rey, with the generals and the admirals. And after having their whole conversation about what's going on Exegol, they would cut to a private conversation between them after the generals leave. Kylo would express his concerns that she's never truly given herself to the dark side, and that she has always had this resistance within her heart, that she feels it. She says that's absurd, and of course she is. And he then says to her, I need you to prove it to me. I need you to do a task. She says, what? He says, I need you to hunt down the Jedi Finn and destroy him. She eagerly says, I will, as if she's completely committed. She then gets into her TIE silencer with the Black Vulture holding the Knights of Ren in it, and they all set out to go track down the Resistance fighters. So this is where we're going to do our to be continued. We still have 2 more parts to this bad boy, but I want to know, what do you guys think so far of my fanfiction? What do you think so far of this idea of switching roles between Rey going dark and Finn going light? I want you to let me know in the comments. I want you to remember to like, share, and certainly subscribe so you don't miss any more of my updates on Dark Ren, other reviews of Star Wars properties, and all sorts of great fun times we're going to be having. Until next time, guys, ciao for now.